Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Batwoman Season 3 review series. And today I am going to be talking about Episode 9, Meet Your Maker, which I have just finished watching. And this episode was a little bit different to the previous ones we have seen in Season 3 so far. This episode was kind of like Cabin in the Woods meets Blair Witch, with a little bit of horror thrown in. So this episode kind of embraced some horror aspects, but at the same time it was still very much a Batwoman episode. So they didn't completely deviate from what the show is all about. So this episode pretty much picks up where we left off at the end of episode 8, Trust Destiny, where we saw Renee Montoya find Pamela Icee buried underground in the Batcave, and she more or less sets her free. And this episode pretty much picks up from that. And we see at the beginning, Pamela Icee takes out 2 fishermen with her vines, but she's not at full strength yet. And Renee Montoya is more or less on the run with her. And this episode pretty much was set in the woods, which is kind of a rare thing because most of the episodes have always been ground-based in Gotham City. So this was a welcome change. I quite enjoyed the change in dynamic. And we also see Alice and Mary Hamilton, who we've seen now become Poison Ivy, but a different kind of version of Poison Ivy. And these two have more or less been on the run. And we start to see them bond more in this episode. They've kind of like taken on a Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy type of sisterly relationship. So that was kind of cool to see. And also we were treated to the return of John Diggle, played superbly as always by David Ramsey, and it's always great to see him. John Diggle is an amazing character and has been one of the mainstays of the Arrowverse since its inception. So he has some history with Ryan Wilder's mother, Jada, so he's here basically to catch up, and she offers him a job as a member of her security team. John Diggle, of course, rejects it, and he's more or less trying to say to Jada that why don't you let yourself in, give Ryan a chance, you never know, the worst thing in the world could turn out to be the best thing that could ever happen to you. And we also see that John Diggle has gone to Luke Fox for help, and we see the little box that we saw at the end of Arrow Season 8. And Luke Fox pretty much explains to him that I've tried to open it, I've done everything I can, but it just won't open. How did it open for you? And he more or less says, I didn't open it, it just kind of like opened for me. So, in a way, this story arc about whether or not John Diggle is actually going to become the Green Lantern has taken on kind of a life of its own, because we don't really know where this is going, because, you know, I've said before, John Diggle's been kind of making the rounds in the Arrowverse shows and just popping up here and there, but we don't really know where this story is going to end up. I do think that there is a possibility this might all pay off in the new Justice U series that's coming up, where John Diggle will be the lead character for that new show. So maybe this is where it's all heading to, but time will tell really. But John Diggle, even though he had only 3 scenes, it was great to see him as always. You know, I love the guy. I love David Ramsey. You know, always great to see Diggle in any capacity, whether it's big or small. So we see in the course of this episode, Mary Hamilton is experiencing lots of head trauma, and this leads her to meeting the real Poison Ivy. And also another interesting twist in this episode regarding Poison Ivy. It's like she can hear things around her, so her senses have kind of sharpened. And if she hears something, she takes them out. So interesting to see that. And we see Batwoman, Sophie, and Luke. They're trapped in the cabin, and they're more or less trying to get out and stop Poison Ivy from wrecking the city. And she, Mary Hamilton, also in this episode, she's drawn to whatever it is that's causing her head traumas. She says it's Poison Ivy, and eventually we see Pamela, Icee, and Mary Hamilton meet each other face to face. And I'm not really too sure how this ends, because at the end we see Pamela Icey kisses Mary's forehead, and we see all this green lighting and energy starts soaring out of Mary's body, and we see Pamela Icey starts to look more and more her old self. And it's a very strange ending, because I thought what was going to happen was Pamela Icey would take out Mary and she would officially become Poison Ivy, and that's it. But very strange ending. So we don't know how this is going to play out, but very strange ending nonetheless. And also, I'm just wondering, how this is all going to pay off, because, Renee Montoya's on the run, Sophie doesn't trust her, Batwoman that obviously doesn't trust her, Luke's kind of in the middle, Alice doesn't like her, period. So, all eyes on Renee Montoya, all eyes are on Pamela Icey, and of course Mary, Nicole Kang, let's talk about her a little bit. Another great performance, and she's really coming to her own as an actress, and it's really good to see her have a much bigger role, in the last few episodes. So I'm quite interested to see how this is all going to play out. But by and large, pretty good solid episode. Mostly the focus was on Poison Ivy, really. Well, the original Poison Ivy, that is. So there's been a lot more focus on her. Wasn't really much of Batwoman in this one, but the few Batwoman scenes we got, they were quite decent. And of course, the highlights for me of this episode was, of course, seeing John Diggle back. So by and large, as I said, pretty good episode. Kind of had like a cabin in the woods sort of feel to it, but it was good. I liked it. So that's going to be it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What did you think of John Diggle's appearance in this episode? Did you enjoy it? Do you think this journey that he has been on lately, do you think this is all setting up for his brand new series, Justice U? And also the ending, what do you think happened in the end? Do you think Pamela Icey has got her energy back from Mary Hamilton? And if so, do you think this could lead to her taking out Mary Hamilton? And also, where does Alice fit into all of this? Because we've seen her take on a more of a big sister kind of role. Do you think she will be able to save her? And the same with Batwoman, Sophie, and Luke Fox. Do you think they'll be able to get to Mary Hamilton in time? And also, what about Renee Montoya? Where do you think she fits into all of this? And when push comes to shove, where do you think she will eventually hang her hat, so to speak? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. And I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Batwoman Season 3 review series, where I am going to be talking about episode 10, which I am looking forward to talking about and seeing, especially with the strange way this one ended. So I'm very curious to see how this is all going to play out in the next episode. So until next time, take care everybody and stay safe. And once again, as always, thanks for listening.